Welcome to the MindWorks tour, and on this video I'm going to show you how to unleash the power of your magnificent mind. Mind is an activity, not a thing. Most people, when asked what the mind looks like, think of a brain. However, mind is an activity, not a thing. It is a directed flow of information and consciousness. So allow me to explain. A child is born. When a child is born, it has a subconscious mind. An easy way to picture and understand this is by thinking of a new computer. When you buy a new computer, it has a fresh, clean hard drive. The operating system in this case is added by the universe and runs basic functions, and then you begin to add programs to it. The learning process begins. The child begins to receive data which it does not yet understand through its 6 senses. It records everything. The senses are the sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, and the 6th sense. All of this data is recorded in the child's subconscious mind. Think of this also like a new computer with programs loaded that only run when you open and start them. So the mind records everything. It records language, experiences, behaviors of parents, relatives, other children, emotions of people it connects with, happy, angry, sad, TV nanny, the radio, and the default operating system reveals itself bit by bit. How the child grows, how big or small, tall or short, hair, teeth, inner systems. The whole evolution of the child begins to happen and reveal itself. Think of a plant. When you sow a seed into the ground, you don't have to do anything. There's an operating system, like an intelligence within the seed itself, which grows the plant. And gradually, over time, the plant evolves and changes. Or even think of an animal. If you've observed a small animal when it's born, and as it grows up, you'll notice that the animal has certain inbuilt behaviors and operating systems that begin to run at certain times. And then eventually, the animal grows up, and then it begins to take on its own consciousness. And you can teach the dog tricks, you can teach it certain behaviors. So think of a baby, and also think of a vehicle. Now that might be a little bit strange, but let me explain. The baby, the child, once again is born with this inbuilt universal operating system. We don't actually do a whole lot when the child is growing in those first months. It just becomes, and it grows, and certain things happen. The hair grows on the child, the eyes open, and it starts to evolve. It starts to get bigger. It starts to display the characteristics of what it's going to become in later life. So think of the child like a vehicle, because our bodies are like a vehicle. So if you were to have a vehicle, a car, the car of itself has no consciousness. It just is. But then when you evolve, when you put your consciousness into that vehicle, then you can really start to get some performance out of it. Then you can start to experience what it's like to drive this vehicle called a human body. So around 7 years old, a conscious mind is formed, and the conscious mind is a reflection of the beliefs and values of the child. So the child begins to think, and the conscious mind reflects the beliefs and values of the child and the information that is stored in the child's unconscious mind. So what happens is it starts to run its own programs, and whatever beliefs and values it has in there, it will express. So if the child thinks it's no good at maths, it ends up being no good at maths. If the parents think it's a bad child, they probably end up with a bad child. If the parents think they have an intelligent child, they probably end up with an intelligent child. Again, if the parents input you're not very good at sports, then the child ends up not being very good at sports. And what happens is, things like you say it's time for bed, and the child searches its database and decides that I don't want to go to bed. Playing with toys is more fun. Or you talk to the child and you say, hey, eat your vegetables, they're really good for you. And the child searches its data bank and it says, I don't want to eat my vegetables, I want to eat fish and chips. So we end up with this conscious mind that begins to think. So your conscious mind is the part of you that thinks and reasons. It is the one thing that separates human consciousness from the rest of the animal kingdom. It's your ability to experience life. And in your ability to choose your thoughts resides your free will and your power to create your desires, if you use it. Your results in life are determined by the thoughts that you choose, but your thinking is influenced almost entirely by the content of your subconscious or unconscious mind. Who you are as a person is in fact a reflection of the content of your subconscious mind. So as the child grows and evolves into being a teenager and then into being an adult, the learning and social conditioning continues. And we continue to receive information from our environment, our friends, our family, reading, movies, work, the location we live in, the news, the TV, the studies that we do. And all of this information invokes thoughts, and the thoughts are reacted upon according to our beliefs and values. So we have a thought, it creates an emotion and it creates feelings, and then these emotions and feelings create action, and the actions create the results that we experience in life. So life goes on, and people tend to drift through life in what is called the Adamic dream. And to understand this, have you ever got in your car with the intention of going somewhere, and then all of a sudden you arrive at that place and you've absolutely no idea how you got there, and it was half an hour ago? That's the sleep state, the sleeping state, which is called the Adamic dream. And most people go through their whole lives in this Adamic dream. So what happens is, as the person ages, the programming they've got becomes reinforced by repetition, and familiarity becomes the way of life. They do the same kind of work, they have the same friends, they go to the same restaurants, they watch the same kind of movies, they live in the same area, and the programs that were input into them earlier in life, in their childhood, continue to run. So the child that didn't like vegetables still eats fish and chips, burgers, pizzas, etc. The child whose parents told him or her she was stupid becomes the factory worker adult. The child that was not very good at sports becomes the unfit adult. The child with the alcoholic parents becomes the alcoholic adult. And the child with the poor, money doesn't grow on trees parents becomes the financially struggling adult. And if you're still alive today, then what you did previously was successful in a way, and there's no real reason to change. So people kind of drift through life on this programming in this sleep state. And in this sleep state, information still continues to come in, and new ideas still continue to come in, but the new ideas are rejected by the current beliefs and values, and the people get stuck with their current beliefs and values. And essentially it's because change can be uncomfortable and challenging and requires effort and desire. So what happens, unfortunately, is that most people simply don't evolve, and that's the downside of a life of familiarity. And it's said that something like 80% of people are unhappy with their jobs, unhappy with their life, etc., etc. So they're still receiving all this old information which is being filtered by their beliefs and values, and on top of that, society in general, the programming is really negative. So all this negative information is coming in. They've got their habitual thinking processes, which leads to unpleasant feelings and emotions, which leads to a reaction. The reactions lead to the same results, and the experience and limitation from those results and failure to change leads back into the same habitual thinking patterns. So we have this kind of cycle of quiet despair and frustration that goes on for most people in society. And little by little, most people devolve and become disconnected from their spirit, and they start to blame circumstances and things outside of themselves for the results and the experience that they're having inside of themselves, which is the complete opposite of how it works. Now, it's usually only in crisis situations that a person awakes and begins once again to evolve. So happily, the ability to change our lives is something which is available to every man, woman and child on this planet, and it begins with a change in our thinking. So there's this awakening that happens, this seeking to change, and it usually comes from crisis, and these crises can be blessings in disguise. They're like a friend in disguise. So some information comes in and new ideas come in, and finally a new idea is accepted. And the new idea is accepted, it creates a new belief or value, and the old belief or value is rejected, and we create some new results in life. And this is the beginning of what is sometimes referred to as the hero's journey. So an awakened person seeks new knowledge and new ways of living. And they do this through books and seminars and courses, and perhaps they met a person. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. They do some coaching, perhaps some other new forms of learning are digested, leading to a happier way of life. Well, because Visualization Turbo is a subliminal programming software, I wanted to cover a little of the history of subliminal learning. And there was an experiment in 1957 on the 12th of September, and market researcher James Vickery held a press conference that made a new term famous. Vickery claimed to have developed hidden adverts that could be used in movies and TV shows, ads that flashed so quickly they were not consciously noticed by viewers, but affected their buying habits. He coined the term subliminal advertising to describe them. And on the right you see the movie which they used for the experiment. It was called The Picnic. So in this movie they flashed up these messages which were hungry, eat popcorn, and the other one was drink Coca-Cola. And they flashed them up every 5 seconds for I think around 0.003 of a second. And Vickery claimed that his subliminal ads increased Coke sales at the theatre by 18% over normal levels and boosted popcorn sales by 57%. So of course people protested about this kind of advertising, and subliminal advertising was subsequently banned. So in the 1970s, researchers in personal development, accompanied by new leaps in available technology such as tape recorders, started using subliminal programming for positive change. How to accelerate change. Now when you watch the introductory video, you would have seen an example of how Visualization Turbo, the mechanics of how Visualization Turbo takes images and affirmations and flashes them on the screen of your computer so that they are accepted subliminally by your unconscious or subconscious mind. So Visualization Turbo essentially takes new ideas, new desires, new learnings, and it places them directly into our subconscious minds in a way that affects a rapid change in our behavior. So we take some new ideas, we put them into our subconscious mind, this creates new thinking, and then with the new thinking we can adjust and add to the programming that we want to put into our subconscious mind to change our behaviors, and then we put more programming in using Visualization Turbo, or perhaps we have the intuition to pick up a new book, or perhaps we have the intuition to pick up a new course and study something new. So we have this continuing cycle of new information going in, creating new beliefs and values which lead to new thinking, which leads to new emotions and feelings and new actions, which leads to new results. So essentially what we're doing with Visualization Turbo is we're bypassing any resistance that we have as a residual of our old thinking, our old values and our old beliefs, and by doing that we're bit by bit programming ourselves and changing who we are and changing our experience of the reality and the external world that we live in. So it's a continual process, and Visualization Turbo is an aid. It's a tool for inputting new beliefs, values, programming, ideas, thoughts, information into our subconscious minds so that we can create a better life for ourselves. Are you currently experiencing any blocks in your life? Wanting to learn something new but not doing it? Wanting to integrate new habits, beliefs or values? Well, you can use Visualization Turbo as leverage. You can use it to get you moving, get started, and you can use it to continue the momentum. It's a tool, and it's a tool over which you have absolute control. It's very flexible. You decide what you desire to experience, and then we use subliminal learning to absorb and integrate it. So you could desire to become more conscious, more happy, more confident. You might want to change your beliefs around your health and well-being or around money. In fact, you can use it to input new techniques and steps for even meditation and visualization. And all of this has a snowball effect. So the new thinking patterns create more desirable new results and a new, better experience of life. And because the new way of life and living feels better, we choose to continue with it, and it becomes a new habit. And we get into this positive feedback loop where we've got new thoughts, new feelings, positive emotions, new actions, new results, continually feeling better about ourselves, and so on. So all of this leads to the continually evolving you. There's new information, there's new ideas, there's new thoughts, there's evolving beliefs and values. The new you is created, you're rejecting old beliefs and values, you're getting new information in from the universe, and yes, the universe does have information which is for you, and you in particular. You're using sight, sound, touch, taste, smell and your sixth sense, and you're experiencing life in a whole new different way, a richer way of life and way of living. And join me on the next video, because I want to demonstrate one of the ways which you can use Visualization Turbo through the power of social proof to input some new behaviors. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching.